I call Edmonton my home.
Yeah, Edmonton's always been home. Like I have a really deep love for this place, for this particular land, for Treaty 6 territory, for the ways in which this has become the only home I know. Right. So I love Edmonton. I was away for about a decade doing various degrees, and so I've lived a bunch of other places. And yeah, Edmonton's always been home. Like I have a really deep love for this place, for this particular land, for Treaty 6 territory, for the ways in which this has become the only home I know, really. Um, and yeah, like I think there's a lot to love, but I'm a winter girl, so like I really, really love winter in Edmonton. I know people have a lot of complaints about it, but I love the snow and I'm always happier in the winter. And so um like I like the way that the snow changes the world around you, and I like the way that the sky turns kind of pink when it's about to snow at night. And I just have a lot of memories of, even as a child, like how still the world gets when it snows. And that's probably my favorite thing about the city. But yeah, I also love that Edmonton is just the right size, right? That you can still build really concrete communities, that you can still know most people. And I think in my work in particular, that's really important. I still get to do a lot of things in a very tight-knit kind of community. So even though it's gotten a lot larger since I was a child, I overlap with most people. Like in the online Edmonton, I would say like, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 degrees of separation at most for me, for most people, which is pretty amazing because I think in larger cities, you can't do that. And it means that when I do work and the work is good, that it will carry. The ripples have more of an effect because everyone's closer together. And I love that. And I also love how accessible the city is, in the sense that like I think a lot of the festivals are like free or easy to get to. They're often very family friendly. Like I can access the art scene here in a way that I couldn't when I lived in like Vancouver or when I was out east. Like I think it's just a more affordable place that way. And it means that you can access arts and culture, literature, and communities that you might not learn about otherwise, and learn, I think, and expand your consciousness in ways that isn't always possible, I think, in some of the bigger cities. And I love that about this place.
I moved to Canada 16 years ago, and I lived in Montreal for 9 years, and then we moved here. Uh, I've been here for the past 7 years or so, and what I like about Edmonton is, having grew up in Singapore, where it's a very busy cosmopolitan city, I like that the space, this in at Edmonton. I like that you don't feel like it's busy all the time. I don't like crowds, so I enjoy living in the suburbs in Edmonton. And the other thing is about communities, that there's a diverse community, and in doing community organizing and advocacy, um, there's you know you it's easy to create collaborations with different communities. We have a good understanding and good working relationships with the other communities, and even in terms of the Muslim community itself, is very diverse. Like even with Sisters Dialogue, like on our board itself, I myself, I'm Asian from the Malay community. We have someone from the South Asian community. We have someone from the Somali community. So we try and reflect the diversity of the Muslim community here, and that's what I like about Edmonton. My kids go to a very diverse school. They go to a French school because they were born in Montreal, and sometimes when I talk to them about racism, the interesting thing is, because it's a small school that's so diverse, it's kind of funny. It's kind of weird because they haven't experienced racism yet. It's kind of worrying too, because like I'm thinking, oh, they're gonna grow up and they're gonna experience it later. But right now, because of the school where they're at, it's so diverse that they haven't really experienced it themselves. Which which is, there's the pros and cons. Like I wish um, when they experience it earlier, I think maybe, kind of think of it, if you experience it later, maybe because you would have confidence in yourself. And then when you see it when you're older, I think you can assert yourself, doing like, hey, I'm Canadian, right? Um, because I remember like for myself as an immigrant, well, let's say when I'm accosted on the street, someone tell me to go back home or take off my hijab. It just happened in Edmonton and in Montreal. I'm sometimes kind of like, I freeze, like I don't know how to react. I'm an advocate, I can talk, but in that moment, I just feel so less than, right? Because I think that sense of like, I was not born here, and then people equate that with not belonging here. I I think that creates a sense of like uh what do you call it? Like maybe like a low self-esteem or something. So I think my kid being sheltered for now, hopefully they get that, build up that resilience, in knowing and in confident in their own identity before they face the tough questions that they will get when they are older. But at the same time, hoping that, when they're older, maybe we'll be at a better place and they won't have to endure what their mom endured.
What I love about Edmonton and my favorite thing about it is having my family around me and having that support system around me at all times.
Edmonton really became home for me, I think, when I started to involve myself in the community a lot more. Initially, like, it was a culture shock for me. So I decided that I wanted to find, my community. So I volunteered to help my friend do his campaign trail for city council. And, it was a great experience. I was a volunteer coordinator, and I got to meet a lot of the youth in our community, in the Muslim Black community. And it was great. They were so enthusiastic. They were, they're motivated. They were ready to help this brother, lead his dream. And so being a part of that really inspired me. And my job as a volunteer coordinator, I had to get these youth to come on time and get their, make sure that they come on time, make sure that they come do door knocking with us. And so, I wasn't from Edmonton, so I got to even learn the city, the north side, the south side. I'm from the south, but the west, like all these places that we had to go to and do door knocking. And just to help this young brother out to ride out his dream. And it was inspiring for me, and I wanted to help him, and in return they helped me. These young kids who were going out there doing door knocking, getting outside their comfort zone, I felt that I found my people and I found my calling, and I wanted to just do it more. And it made me regret that I didn't volunteer more when I was younger. I even took my kids with me on some of these door knocking missions, and my siblings, I'd be like, let's go, we got to go help Mustafa and get out there and get the word out. And so it was a great experience. And then after that, I also hosted a Somali cultural night, a Somali grad night. I did that 2 years in a row. And I got to meet some MLAs, and I got to meet we did some roundtable discussions with the police of Edmonton. And so slowly, I was building my network, my support. I started, when I walked into a room, people knew who I was. That was really weird for me. And hence the Sister Sophie name that has now been is me. That's who I am. I'm Sister Sophie. And a lot of people used to think it's because of my, my headscarf. Like in Islam, we say brother, sister to make it more personable when you're talking to somebody. But that wasn't it. It was just because I'm Sister Sophie. Like I was like the big sister of the community, and I really liked it. And I shared a lot of my experiences with the youth, and I got to have a chance to mentor some girls. I helped my friends start a league for the sisters. It was called EMBA, which stood for Edmonton Muslim Basketball
Muslim Basketball Association. And so I got to coach with them as well. And I have this jersey here that they made for me, and it's customized to my name. Sister Sophie. There's, different variations of and so we wanted to do this because we wanted the sisters to have a safe place to play sports. So it started off with basketball. The idea was to do other sports as well. It is hard sometimes to rent a place where we can use for the sisters, where there's no men that are going to come in. So when you're using the public gyms, we always have to make sure there's no men that are coming in, because we wanted to create a space where they can take their hijab and hijabi friendly. That's what we say, so that they can wear t-shirts, because when you wear hijab, you have to be modesty covered. So a lot of the girls were young too. Their parents trusted us that we were going to have the safe space for them. So we did find it difficult sometimes to have these gym rental places for the kids. But we used Boyle Street a lot. We were really happy to work with them. And we also, in return as well, did some food runs with them, feed the homeless, a lot of initiatives that they opened up to us as well. And we had the girls to do it. So it was a great experience again, to work together with the Indigenous community as well.
What I love about Edmonton is their art scene. So, for example, on Jasper Avenue, they would have poetry. It was at a small little restaurant there. And in the evenings on Tuesday nights, there would be open mic. And sometimes they would have poetry slams. So I actually went and listened to them, and finally had stepped up the courage to do my first open mic and share one of my poems there. So I just love the community in Edmonton. And I also love the scenery. So I've gone to the Matart Conservatory and also the Aga Khan Gardens, which is built, and the architecture is by a Muslim scholar. So it's really, really beautiful. They have a garden there, and I love the scenery.
Growing up in Calgary, I feel like Edmonton has a bad rap, but once I moved here, and especially when I used to visit when my sister lived here too, it's really grown on me. I can honestly say I really love Edmonton now. I think one of the most amazing parts about it is the people. Everyone's really nice. And I find that the city's slower than Calgary. And maybe that's because there's police everywhere gives us tickets, but also just the lifestyle as well is a lot slower, I find, which I really like. And it's really centered in community. I find that the community really works together. I've seen a lot of nonprofits who work together as well, which is really nice. But even the Muslim community, as soon as I got here, I made that connection right away, and I found people. And it's sometimes honestly crazy to think about that I can just go to the space, like a masjid, for example, and find family or find people that I can relate to right away. And that was really important to me especially because I moved here all by myself. And just right away, I made that connection. And Edmontonians have been really, really kind. And just living downtown too, everyone's been really nice.
When I was in Los Angeles in 2010, and I got the news that my dad passed away in Morocco. He was with my mom vacationing. He was there too long. He was not supposed to be there that long. And he tragically passed away in his sleep. And when I got the news, I lost it. I freaked out. I didn't know how to handle it. And I said, that's it. I'm done. What's there for me? What's in LA for me? There's nothing in LA for me. So I decided that was the pivotal point to come back home with my two boys and to start all over again. And that's honestly where I can say I started brand new, fresh, back to Edmonton, where I was raised, and I had to come back and do it all over again. The thing I like about being in Edmonton is being a single parent and having young kids. The support system from the government is very beneficial, because when you're a struggling single parent with young children, you soon find out there's resources out there for you to help ease the burden of raising your children, so you don't have so much of a struggle. And there's programs like the Boys and Girls Club where the kids can go to this program after school. They have lunch or snacks there and they do activities, and then they come home maybe an hour later. It's just little things like those, they add up. And then just having like the Boys and Girls Club also have mentors. So they take the children like once a week to an outing, and they pay for everything, and the kid has a nice time, come home, great. It's like a big brother, because they didn't have a father in their lives. So the Boys and Girls Club benefited by being the boys' mentor.
I am in love with Edmonton. I call Edmonton my home. I always say I'm from Emeskuchi, Wagan, the Beaver Hills Nation, Treaty 6 territory, Turtle Island. Edmonton is where I first learned who I am and where I'm from when I sat in front of a Cree elder and said, "Who are your people? What language do you speak? How do you understand treaties?" And, you know, that was such a fascinating question because where I'm from, we don't ask about each other's tribe or clan. You know, due to European colonization, there's been a lot of atrocities of genocide around it. I feel like being a Muslim woman of African descent living in Edmonton, there's been a lot of opportunities, beauty, connection, a sense of belonging. But lately, that sense of belonging, it's really being questioned.
That Islam is a way of life. Islam is different than culture. It's a religion. And Islam actually means peace.